Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 11.2, and of course we're playing as America this time. One of the viewers was asking about tips on playing Black Ice, and we were talking about it last episode. If you saw that, you will know. But I could say, it's really hard just to give tips for generalities. I do have, if you're, new around here, you can look at my channel page. I do have a lot of tutorials on playing Black Ice, sort of a bunch of sections. So look through those. That will help, and just watching my videos ultimately will help. We would give them fuel in exchange for, yes, you can have fuel, Australia. Twin engine airframe research. Okay, that is there. Okay, so we have those 39s. We're starting to do fighter research. We can do flying boat research. Okay. Yes, you have energy, Sweden, Iraq. I'm going to decline. You might just become an Axis member. I think you will, so I'm going to decline. You can have energy. I don't need an Axis member to have another submarine out there, especially way out in the Indian Ocean type area. Okay, self-propelled artillery brigade. Okay, that's there and it's grayed out. Good, fine. Air launch torpedoes. Okay, air launch torpedoes. That is under. Oh, yeah, 1942. Okay. One of them. Okay, gun ability, twin engine airplanes. Gun ability, 1941. That is as well. Okay. You can do 1940s technologies without getting the red warning. You can, if you really want to press ahead, though it is not recommended into the red zones, but doable. Yeah, we'll start on some of that. Well, let's see, I'm looking at industry. Just because the penalties for pressing into having it red, you might get it a little earlier, but maybe not much, because it is really a. Okay, we should just come down here and make sure that we're getting all of these done as well efficiently, because we can do those efficiently. Okay, how did you like the piracy scandal? Greeks pirated Turkey oil, Iran pirated 2 Greek ships. They're rumored about U.S. ships which supposed to carry Turkey's oil to the U.S. Okay. I hadn't heard about the Greeks grabbing up the. I'm not going to say that they pirated, because I don't know the conditions of it. I haven't heard about the Greeks grabbing up Turkey oil. I don't know what that means. I don't know whether you. I don't know what that means. I'm presuming. I guess you mean oil tankers, but I have not heard about that. I had heard that Iran did get a couple of Greek ships. And all I saw is the headlines of it, quite honestly. There is very strong evidence, basically watching 2 tankers meet in the middle of the night, not necessarily in the middle of the night, but meeting in the middle of the ocean or seas or whatever you want to call it, but out in international waters, one of them being flagged Iran, one of them being flagged somebody else, maybe China, I don't remember, but 2 ships meeting up and sitting next to each other for the 2 tankers sitting next to each other for a while and then go their own ways. Basically, we can presume there may be evidence of even like water lines changing, but we can presume that they were laundering oil, if you will, meaning taking Iranian oil out of an Iranian flag tanker, putting it on somebody else's flag tanker, and then trying to deliver it somewhere, and so that as if it was being somebody else's originated oil. I do not know whether those Greek tankers were somehow involved in that, or whether they're just a tit for tat grab up stuff. I don't know. Greeks grabbed Iranian tankers carrying oil. Okay. To Turkey, Iran protested. Okay, so it's purely a tit for tat. Okay, I had not heard about the Greeks. Well, I don't. They're not supposed to be doing those things. Best I understand, if you are a NATO member and whatnot, you're not supposed to be buying Iranian oil, even if you are Turkey. So I don't know about the legality. I'm not going to say it's pirated, because pirated is something that would be considered illegal. Now, what's legal and what isn't legal? Well, we have maritime law and we have UN resolutions passed. You can say the UN is illegal, sure, whatever. But if you presume that they have any sort of sanctions abilities or whatnot, and then if you don't want to say that there are, then there are no pirating, because then it's just simply force of arms out there in the world. I will take that to being a practical reality. Just go, hey, if you got the guns or the nuclear missiles or whatever it is, you get to make the rules. It's force of arms. But if you go, hey, we've said something that you're not supposed to be shipping Iranian oil, and if Greece gets to, hey, thanks for following. If Greece gets to intercept that stuff, great, fine. Then if those two Greek tankers did not enter what we, the maritime great power of the world, the United States, says that they're international waters, meaning, they're basically, we believe that unless it's something like a closed space of the Suez Canal or something here, even if theoretically the distance we would normally extend to territorial waters between, out from territorial, as opposed to economic territory, drilling for oil, but shipping territory, the United States holds, and we will enforce it with nuclear weapons or ships carrying nuclear weapons, whether we launch them or not, that there is an international channel to be used between, Djibouti and Yemen here, or whatever, no matter, so if you're generally steering through the international channel, neither of these nations should be allowed to grab up your ships under a law enforcement, air quotes, capacity. The Dungeons and Dragons tomorrow is going to interfere with postscriptum. Well, I guess. Well, I don't know, Eric. Figure out what's more important, because now you were getting us all going to doing postscriptum, and I'm doing it because I presumed you were going to be available. Maybe Herr Thomas will be around to drive, but I don't know. Well, figure out what you're going to do. Let me know. Because if you're not going to be there, I'm not going to try to get it going with Arno. I know Arno would want to do it, but I really want one of us in the Discord to be the driver, and I don't know that Herr Thomas has committed to being there. Not that he needs to. So, because we were supposed to be playing postscriptum tomorrow, Arno. That's what we had decided to do. That's why we were practicing yesterday, getting ready for, was it yesterday or Thursday, whatever day it was, we were practicing. I think it was Thursday, but for the Sunday postscriptum instead of War Thunder. So that was what we were going to be doing, Arno. It's not quite infantry thunder, but it's sort of like that. And I figured you were going to be involved as gunner. That's why we're doing the practice. Well, maybe we'll talk about it. So I don't know. We'll talk about it on Discord later. I mean, just maybe post messages, but whatever. Okay. So back to this. So Ragar stuff. So if Iran is just using, people coming through the Straits of Hormuz to grab up ships, Iran does not yet have nuclear weapons, people. Iran does not, as far as I know, yet have nuclear weapons, people. Now, we do have the Biden administration. Now, of course, the Biden administration is a problem because people, governments, shall we say, which are made up of people, but government think they're weak. But what it is a weak president, but there's policies, and you very well may get pushback of the U.S. deciding to put a physical blockade of Iran and snapping up Iranian vessels. And Iran really can't do anything about it. I mean, yeah, they can try some of their attacks. They could launch their submarines out and try to sink things, but it ain't going to go well for them if they do so. So, I don't care about a dirty bomb, Arno. It could be ugly for somebody, and I guess in theory they could get it to my home here in California, or they could get it to somewhere else in the U.S., but that ain't a nuclear weapon. It just ain't. And I don't know how much. I know they have nuclear materials. Their centrifuges so they could probably do something, but I don't even know how. See, with a dirty bomb, unless you have a lot of explosives cooked up on that, how well will they be able to spread? And I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't know how well they would be able to spread the nuclear waste around to be the dirty part. And so, and how well that will be going airborne and spreading how densely, not that they wouldn't have a little bit of radiation around, but I don't know how deadly or even how medically damaging that would be to people. It's so much different than a nuclear weapon, and I don't know that a good setup of chemical weapon launch wouldn't just be, and in fact probably a dirty bomb is in essence almost a chemical weapon anyways. A little more persistent. So I wouldn't worry too much about dirty bombs. I mean, yeah, if they happen on you, yeah, that would be bad. I'm not saying it isn't, but they don't yet have nuclear weapons. And this current oil crisis caused by dumb decision of the EU is actually better than nuclear weapons. Iran can screw up the world royally. Yeah. As Ragar knows and others here who watch me, I do follow a lot of the news. I don't get everything. I will totally admit it. I do believe, I almost said no, but I do believe that Iran and China are trading in oil. I believe so. I don't know how open it is, or maybe that's some of the pirated, or not pirated, but sort of the sanction busting oil transfers maybe related to China. Yeah, the U.S. could really lock down their coast, and basically enough to shut down all commercial shipping. Nobody commercial would be going, and the U.S. can easily snatch up the Iranian ships at sea. Yeah, that would be easy peasy for the U.S. Between the SEALs, going and boarding the ships, or just U.S. Marines boarding the ships effectively. And unless you think the ship, like some of the, some of the stuff that they've been hauling down to Yemen for the Houthi rebels down there, I do believe are, fairly well guarded, meaning there's a bunch of IRGC guards on them. But I think a lot of the tankers and others, I think they're completely unarmed. I could be wrong. I don't have the intel on it, because they may very well have arms just because they too go by pirated territories down here. I don't know, but they're not commandos on board those ships. So Marines should be able to do a underway boarding very effectively, with probably very light to no casualties. Maybe more casualties to slipping and falling and breaking your ankles or something than gunfire casualties. And of course, helicopters dropping Marines on fast ropes down on ships would be a thing too. So yeah, they should be able to take down Iran ships everywhere in the world as soon as they, even those sitting in like Chinese or North Korean or wherever ports, once they come out in the international waters, just whoop, get them. And we could easily in time just get rid of every Iranian ship that goes to sea and stop anybody from commercially. I'm not saying that a submarine can't get out, or I'm not saying some little go fast boat or something can't get out, but no commercial level shipping. We can easily shut down Iran, just because there's only a few. What is this? Isfahan. No, this is Isfahan, isn't it? No, Bandar Abbas, Isfahan. I think one of these is like Isfahan, and this is Bandar Abbas. Here, the Straits of Hormuz. There's just like 2 or 3 big ports along here. Everything else is just fishing village BS. And yeah, well, the EU is stupid, but yeah, for multiple reasons. Okay, well, we now have a lot of extra ICs here. Okay, all of our industrial capacity ICs have been done. Well, okay, I think we can. Let's see about building some more. Looking for places that would be better to expand. That's at 100%. Well, we can do one there. Do one there. We may build. Get a little bit more there. We may build some heavy industry as well. That should be full regular. Okay, we'll put one more there. There, Houston. Let's build up the aircraft industry out here in California. To some degree to concentrate your industry so that then you can do heavy industry, which will be even better and efficient. Okay, let's move all these to the top. Okay. Yeah, I try to keep up with the world and what's going on with it. I'm sure I'm in detail lacking in many areas, but I try to get the big picture in focus. Okay, so we have. Okay, that's a carrier. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. Okay, we have a lot of carriers coming. Okay, we have 8 carriers or something like that in production. Plus, what is it? 3 and another 4, 7 light carriers coming in production. Okay, and battleships, Washington, South Dakota, Wyoming. Battleships are big and expensive. I don't know how useful they are, but let's just, for the hell of it, if we're gonna use them, we want them early. These are Iowa class battleships. However much the models mean, it's really more the stats. 44 months. Okay, let's build 2 more battleships. And let's build 2 more heavy cruisers. Now let's build 3 more. 3 more heavy cruisers. Move all of these carrier planes down. Oh, hit the wrong button. Down to the bottom. You need like a gazillion torpedo boats. Yeah, but they're going to be fast to build. I don't need to build them in 1939, Arno. 1941. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, eventually, yes, I want a bunch of those, but I learned in Hoy 3 carriers should be built to get all of them at the same time. Then 3 years, nothing. It's really important to at least trickle some big carriers, even if it. Yeah, you're right about that. And we can look here. You know, we'll get July 41, September 1940 for these CVLs. These 41, September 41, main carriers. February 42, February 42. So, you know, early war, we'll get a bunch of these things, and then we're looking at these are again light stuff. So, in a year or so, mid 40 or something, we may put like one or two more carriers, like you say, to trickle them out. I think you're right about that, to have a few trickling along. Okay. Iran. No, we're not trading our strategic. Okay, Duluth. See, this is. Just to make sure that Milwaukee doesn't revolt while we're sending these guys away to go fight the rebels that didn't exist. The mines online. Okay, so in Bishop we get a tungsten mine. And let's look here. Okay. We'll be getting a positive tungsten once that gets recognized. The shortage of rubber, I know, but we don't. I don't know if we'll get synthetic rubber or whatnot, or we'll get something later. Yeah, is nickel one of them? No. Okay, I think we're just going to postpone for 6 months for now. Oh, I'm sure. And this isn't meant to be a tough playthrough. It's been requested by multiple people over the years. And it's sort of meant for me to talk about the U.S. and things instead of just talking about Germany over and over. Okay, no, do this first. And I'm also hoping to do things different than historical. Right when we get into the war, not sometime mid to late 42, I forget exactly, when the torch landings happen. What about, whether it's December 41 or, January 42, send a few divisions over to here, if there's still fighting here. And if there isn't still fighting here, well, has the British fully, taken out Libya? Maybe. The AI. Or did somehow Italy, take out here, or Germany or something? Maybe that happened. But intervene in the Eastern Mediterranean early on with some troops. How would that be different? And once you get a chance, then do the torch landings or whatnot. But see what can be done to do things a bit different. Okay, a Marine HQs. I'm not saying for sure we're going to do any or all of that, but we're definitely looking at that as a possibility. Radar for destroyers and frigates. Okay, let's get them done that way. I know we have. Okay, one last big push for these things. 40, and then we will probably stop it wherever we're at. Okay, armor pierce cap, ballistic, blah blah blah. Better bullets, better projectiles. I guess it's just yeah. Let's move this over here, and I'm trying to do the ones that take longer to get those researched first. And yes, network capacity capabilities. Because if this game isn't broken, yes, the U.S. will win. It just, in my opinion, is a foregone conclusion. Broken as in, you know, Germany too strong or whatever, you know. Now that doesn't mean that Germany can't defeat Britain, you know, but if the U.S. can't, you know, take back some of these countries and whatnot, well, I'm gonna have things to say, and I don't necessarily want to slow up with another lecture right now. I want to get into the fighting here. But I do want to sort of smartly do research. Okay, yeah. Guess we just want to do more of these. I gotta remember to get through these here. It's efficient to research them. Okay. More rare materials and faster armor build speed. Once we get to building armor, we would give them money. No, I don't want to buy supplies from France. Or are you just looking for money? Okay, I'll accept, I guess. The battle out in Duluth. You remember the great battle in Duluth. Self-propelled artillery, yes, we want to upgrade those. Okay, Hungary has been accepted into there, and we have now gained low popularity. We have a lot of dissent, in my opinion. That's a lot. Yes, we're going to upgrade armored support brigades, and yes, money. Okay, who wants copper? Italy. No, we're not trading with Italy on our strategic resource there. Okay, yes. Study for learning HQs. But now we are tungsten, so rare materials, hard attack, better. Okay, let's read about Disney Animators strike. What is going on with this? This has been a very interesting look at America's labor relations here with this mod. Animators for Fleischer Studios went on strike when Max Fleischer fired 15 employees, all of whom were part of the American Art Union. Fletcher's strike was eventually solved by forming the Screen Cartoonist Guild in 1938. The leader of the guild was Herbert Sorel, described as a tough left-winger, began to push and obtain contracts with Terry Toons, Walter Land's Production, Green Gems, George Pal, and MGM. Leon Schlesinger, whose Leon Schlesinger Productions produced the popular Looney Tunes, and Merry Melodies cartoons for Warner Brothers. Well, of course, we know Looney Tunes for Warner Brothers. Attempted a lockout, but soon gave in to the union and then asked, "What about Disney?" We're having an uprising in New York. How great. You just made it about gangsters or something. It might have been realistic, but no. Now, if you wonder why everybody thinks leftism is so good, it's because they've infiltrated our media. Because as the guy just said, zinc, Australia, okay, and whatnot. And they really want to influence things. You know, most people think Nazis are bad. But I don't know if most people think communists are good. But a lot of them are willing to accept communists. So that's all because of left wingers. And communism has killed more people than Nazism. APM as advanced for cruisers. Zoom, yes. Okay, 35. Let's move it to HE ammunition. I don't know how killing 100 million people is helping people out. Those are just killing people while the communists are in control, not just killing them to gain control. If your system is so good, works so well, why do you have to kill 100 million people in 100 years' time? Riddle me that one. Small warship ASW. If your system is so good, why do you have to kill 100 million people while running your system? Yeah, I guess you go into exile and have maybe Belgium. Malthus go bird. Yes, hey Azad, good to have you here. Yeah, well, I say Malthus is wrong on just about every single damn thing. We have no food production problems in the world, in my opinion. We only have a food delivery problem, lack of good infrastructure to get food to places. And yes, places like Africa, and I don't know India like Azads knows India, but maybe more industrialized farming in India would help there. I don't know India that well, but I know in Africa that it is very outside of South Africa, and it's reverting backwards in South Africa. Outside of South Africa, there is very little industrialized farming. Farming using mechanics, machinery of a self-powered nature is very sort of backward there. Continue. There's a decade-long study, commodity prices. If Malthus was right, they should have gone up. Opposite happened. Yes, Malthus is wrong. Look, I believe again some of this because I haven't read every study. I've read studies here and there, and more likely, quite honestly, summaries of studies. But I think, especially if you were to expand it to North America, because even Mexico could grow a lot more food than it does, and Canada grows quite a bit of food, and it could probably grow a lot more than it does. Probably the North American continent could feed the world if it were really strained and pushed hard to do so. I'm probably wrong, but I don't think so. I think we can look at, and I've been watching some videos about some of the empty areas of Spain and why they happened, and some of them happened. Some of them are because of not the nicest environmental conditions, like cold winters in these mountains, and the idea that you don't need a lot of peasant farmers creating food so people can concentrate in cities. He talks about some of these videos I watched, how the people in Spain are concentrated in cities. And part of it is some of Franco's industrialization policies, which the video sort of goes, yeah, they were sort of good, but they left out areas of Spain. They helped certain areas get industrialized, other areas got left behind, kind of thing. Not so much that whether you should industrialize or not, that's why it didn't help out certain areas. But I do believe Spain could be producing a lot more food than it currently does. And yeah, some of the farms are in areas that the most efficient large, because you can make small farming machine equipment that can work on terraces, terraced land or other things that you don't have to do, hand farming or whatever, as opposed to big, huge tractors for the American plains that are super wide and, most efficient. You can do a lot more farming in places like Spain than they currently do, according to some of these videos. There's certain areas that are well farmed, but there's certain areas that they have decent soil and decent conditions to grow food if there was truly a demand for it. And they could grow a lot more food there. And yeah, again, some of the areas may be just a little too, borderline to be effective in current things that why they, the Middle Ages or something, some peasants grew some food there and now they don't. But there's a lot of other areas that are, not the most efficient, but not unproductive, ungood areas. Wrote a paper on the correlation between economic growth and demographics. Well, cool. Found that the young age dependency was best viable to determine long-term economic growth. Okay, young age dependency is the number of people below the age of 15 divided by number of people between 16 and 55. Starting to get into math, and you're losing me there. The next strongest viable is old age dependency, but that had a negative correlation. Okay, yeah, I sort of understand what you're saying. I'm not saying you're saying it badly. I'm just math and whatnot. But yes, there is a lot of like Azad's talking about demographics that can tell a lot of the story. More teens good, more olds bad. Yes, as a percentage, and I want to say as a percentage thing. Yes, I will agree with you there as a percentage thing, because old people can be at some age they get no longer economically useful, but older people can be a good way of transmitting culture, transmitting values to the young. They can be an economic asset still, but not so much a physical labor asset as effectively, but as a mentoring, training, management element kind of thing. But you're right, as a percentage. So it's not that you want to get rid of the old people. You just don't want to. Now, you don't need to, and I've talked to Azads enough, and he has his own views, and they're different than mine. But I don't necessarily think you need population growth to be strong. And not that any nation can't grow more than it is and still be good and strong. But you need to keep a good balance. Enough younger teens out there, but not necessarily a hugely growing population to have a good balance out there. So yeah, portion of the old that are economically useful are rich and will live. The ones won't. Well, yeah, and especially if you're getting the brutalities of what we'll call the third world, you're absolutely right, as opposed to the first world situation. Which is a bit different on that, I would say. But again, my views, yes. I want to say to everybody who's watching, and Azads knows this, I am a Western chauvinist. I believe general Western is the best way to go about it. Not that we can't learn from other people, and this is going to get to the second part, but is the best way to go about organizing your culture and whatnot. But I love to hear, especially people like Azads who are well informed about their own world, but also about the Western world too, as a compare and contrast, to learn other views, because I do believe competing and contrasting and looking at different things are how we grow and learn. So yes, I am a chauvinist and an unapologetic that I think that Western culture is the best culture, but that doesn't mean we don't want to learn from other cultures, because some of the reasons that we're the best is we've adopted elements from other cultures. And I want to hear from whether it's Asian or African or other non-Western peoples. I want to hear from that. And so, yes, if you can put up with my yay America, not just America, but yay the West is best, but that doesn't mean I dislike or hate or think the others should go away. It just, I think it's, and I look partially at best, not just because I like it and live in it, but success. It's purely on the brutality of it's been successful. And yes, we can talk about the sort of West somewhat becoming degenerate, if you will. The culture is degenerating a bit. Yes, that's a real factor too. I will admit that, but all cultures go through that in one fashion or another at some stages. But they can be resurgent. So we will see as time goes on. But yeah, so I love when AZ shows up and gives me his views on things. Hello, Plastic Gangster. Actually, a study found that the old first worlders are the worst burden because of so much. Yeah, healthcare costs, absolutely. Absolutely. So, yes, Western civilization is the most powerful and successful political construct the world has ever seen. There may be better ways to do it, but our way is the best so far. Absolutely, Plastic Gangster. That's what I say, is because not that we can't learn, whether it's India or China or Japan or wherever, not that we can't learn either, whether it's little things or big things from them, we can, but it's also just giving us a comparison. It just, well, this is the best. Well, compared to what? Or this is the worst. American criminal justice system is the worst. There are so many people in jail. Well, compared to what? What are you comparing it to? To Switzerland? Yeah, okay, yeah. Switzerland may have a better criminal justice system, maybe. But compared to Zimbabwe? No, I'll take the American criminal justice system over Zimbabwe, whatever Zimbabwe's may be. So, it's comparatively speaking, very much so, and we need that out there. Purely economically speaking, if first bridge costs the exchequer the same as 10 years of health care, for old people, the bridge will still be useful 30 years. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But there's also, okay, here's the thing, AZADs, about that issue. When you're talking about soldiers and fighting wars, they know, whether they want to admit it to themselves or not, they know there is a decent chance of getting killed in the war. But there's also a decent chance at being maimed or otherwise badly wounded. And if you were to look at it from the pure brutal success, usefulness, either usefulness as a soldier or usefulness as a worker after or during the war, from a person who's lost both their legs. Now, of course, we now see a lot of people who've lost both their legs are able to walk seemingly readily well from the videos that I've seen. Not that I want to lose my legs to find out, but with modern prosthetics and whatnot, they're able to walk very well and very effectively. And some of them, I don't know if 2 legs, but 1 leg has gone, soldiers have gone back into combat with. So looking at that, but soldiers knowing that their military, and of course it varies from military to military, but their military will do everything reasonable and maybe even beyond at times when they can to try to save their lives once they are wounded, and trying to patch them up instead of just leaving them on the battlefield. And if they're alive 3 days later, well, we may help you then because maybe you'll live on, but actually trying to do expensive medevacs, which started in World War II with helicopters. It did. The Germans did a little bit. The Western Allies did more, mostly like in places like Burma or wherever, where they did medical evacs with helicopters. And doing that kept the soldiers' morales up much better, that their expectations that they're wounded, and even after, getting them off the battlefield, missing both legs or whatever, and going through all that medical attention, and even if they are a economic burden on society for the rest of their lives, that helps out morale of the rest of the soldiers to know that they're not going to be forgotten. So I hear, and that sort of goes for old age situations. I hear what you're saying, but if now there's we can talk about it. And sure, if I was, in a situation needing extraordinary medical care and having the government to do it, and if it was me, yeah, I would probably want it. But we have to draw some line between basic medical care, sort of advanced medical care, shall we say, and extraordinary medical care. Maybe extraordinary medical care should just be for, like AZADs would put it, the rich or people who can afford it. But somewhere between basic and advanced, through various systems, whether it's health insurance in America or national, the national health system of Britain or whatever, that most people will get advanced medical care out without that, and the sort of the extreme medical care is for the rich, as well as developmental medical care that you'll eventually be able to get down into the population more and less expensively done. So somewhere, yes, I would say the society in some fashion or another needs to burden themselves with, whether it's old people or crippled people, and make life tolerably okay for them. They don't need to necessarily have a huge house and get limousine driven around if they're can't drive and can hardly walk, but maybe some sort of tolerable health home for them or something, as a known cushion for later in life. So yeah, you're not wrong on the pure, and I know you didn't say purely economically speaking, but that does help. Most sustainable was written mainly because life expectancy was 50 years old, mostly out of workers, and so yeah, absolutely. You just have a lot more of your criminals locked away in other less advanced countries. Yeah, we'll see. Part of it is whether they're locking them away, the conditions that they're being locked away in, and crime rates are in the country, and all kinds of stuff. And crime rates are, I would say, as much social as they are economic, because there's a lot of rich people that steal money. They didn't do it because they were poor and needed food. And there's poor people out there that don't need money because they can get a job and have a decent home in America without going to crime, but they decide to go to crime, whether they think they're going to make it big or it's just simply they're a low-level criminal and thinks it's going to be easier. So it's sociological as much, in my opinion, as it is, as much or more as it is economic needs based. Because yeah, if we don't have any food, we're going to storm, a bunch of people are going to storm the supermarkets or storm somewhere just to get food. Yes, at some point, yes, we will give up on laws just to secure food at some point. Absolutely. Good people will. But if systems are running reasonably good, that really isn't an excuse in most of anything retiring age, because of life. Yes, absolutely. Even with medical care, it only makes sense to provide those who aren't retired. Yeah, it's like I say, lines need to be driven. Okay, 6,000 money, U.S.A. subsidiaries, 1940. Okay, we have the money, so we'll do that. Okay, we would give money in exchange for supplies. No, we're not doing that. We did that with France because maybe they needed the money to buy some stuff. Okay, well, we've jumped up in ICs, so we are now a bit low versus income for coal and that, which is okay for now. We will have coming up chances to invest in our coal systems. There we go. We will get convoys and escorts done very fast there. That will help us out. Okay, there we are. We're not going to do resource training. Oh, this is after the first year. So yeah. Okay. Let's see. We need to look at this here. I got to remind myself. First time playing America. This is it. Okay. We've got mining, which is keeping us lots of oil, but decent on energy and metal. And we are decent. It's decently below down, but still not terrible. We need to invest a bit more there. We got railroads. We got agricultural industry doing manpower. Supply throughput. Efficiency of production by 1%, I don't think is going to be a major issue for us. With Germany, I give you in TRE the national highways, because Germany wasn't completed on its national highways, even of its core territories, let alone building one over through what had been Polish territories to like East Prussia or something. But they had extensive ones already built, so I give it to you, and they're the first ones. I even did a study on calculating how much someone from my generation would need to invest in order to have their own pension to pay for them 65 to 90. Well, very interesting. Yeah, I'm not quite there yet, A's adds into that range, and we got years and years to go before that. But yeah, I hear you. It's an interesting thing, and first world is different than third world, and whatever the hell you call Russia, and because I know, because this had been, this over here had been second world. Some areas are pulling out of that faster than others, like East Germany is now just Germany basically. But yeah, it's an interesting dilemma. You can't do everything for everybody, but where do you draw the lines as best for society as a whole? We're talking about for those that society supports, as opposed to those who've made enough money to pay for whatever the hell, like you say, if you're made it, not that turns out you need to invest 30% of your income for this pension fund. Since most people won't save that much, they will legit die of poverty, or die. Well, not in the U.S. You don't die of poverty, really. It's actually worse for first world given the demographics. Yeah. Yeah. Now, do factor in here, so far in the U.S., we have home ownership. And people, here's something I don't know that you factored into, and I know particularly in the United States, home ownership. If you look at that, instead of saving up money there, you're putting money. A lot of people are putting 36, or had been putting 36% or more into home ownership of their income. And so they now own a home, in which what we have here is called like a reverse mortgage, in that you get money dribbled back to you, and then on your death, and death of both members, the bank will come in and collect their money on the sale of the home. So, like, let's say if they've given you out half the value of the home, your heirs will, the bank will sell your home, and your heirs will get half of the proceeds, and the bank will get the other half, or whatever the deal is. So they've invested a lot of money in homes here in the United States. Now, that doesn't go with everybody, but there's a lot of that without. Because I hear that 36% of your income, but that's for the pension plan. But if you're not taking into home ownership into account, so think about that. Well, so far it's not. We may have a crash. Yeah, you guys don't know what $1 million house looks like out here in California, or what is virtually $1 million house. And it ain't no mansion, and it ain't waterfront either. Yeah. So you got a house out here in California in a decent neighborhood. It's going to be worth somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million. You got a really nice house out here, it's probably $1.5 million. That'll probably do you, even now. But we'll see how it is in 10 or 20 years. That real estate may collapse. I'm not saying it won't, but it may. Okay, in the UK, I have the NHS. I'm 53 years old and have had heart attacks. Sorry to hear about that. Quadruple bypass. I was shot in the chest and only saved by emergency operation. Wow. Oh, Sorry to hear about your being shot in the chest. I had one of the leading heart surgeons in Europe perform my BASA. It was all free at the point of delivery. Yeah, absolutely. Point of delivery, I will give you free, but it is a balance because you paid for it in your taxes. Presumably, if you've been a reasonably productive person in the UK, you've paid in taxes into that. So and I agree with you. I'm glad you point free at point of delivery, and you're right about that. We all pay in the national insurance all our lives, so did our families. The welfare state will support us from cradle to grave if it doesn't collapse. I could not explain to an American the level of security and comfort that provides. I understand. And we think, we may not, plastic gangsta, but we think we get, if we have good insurance, we think we get better health coverage. We think we do. We may not, but we think we do. Okay. It only keeps up with inflation, money supply. That's true across the world. I don't know. Well, and again, I'm looking at it through a California bias, and not even a Northern California Bay Area bias that's like insane. I think it's much better than inflation up there. But however, this is why immigration is such a absolutely hot potato, because you've paid into it and these other people have not. We pay, yeah, our parents and grandparents, yes. Yes, absolutely. Real estate values come from demographics. So when you're old as the country, your house will decrease in value. I'd recommend shortening first world real estate from 10 to 20 year period. Yeah, I don't know or what you're saying. I think part of it is regionally dependent. Now, before you all start thinking I'm rich, I live in an apartment, but and my family is not rich, but there are homes owned and whatnot, and so yeah, I personally am not worried. Not saying like, again, I'm not going to be rich guy driving new Mercedeses around or anything like that. Unless, of course, I get really popular here on YouTube and y'all start giving me money and things. But unless that happens, no, I'm not going to be. So this is not. Now, I know my lifestyle is much better than the, say, average person in China. God, it's much better than that. Okay, back to this. Highways. So the 1% efficiency boost that you get from national highways is good. I really think Germany, I would do it for Germany even if I didn't give it to you for free as TRE, because I do like saying that I think they had national highways well enough in advance to have that effect in Germany starting in 36. So you don't have to pick it. But I don't think America is going to have supply throughput problems. Because if we look at the globe here, and we're playing as America, we're not probably, I don't plan on going to war with the Soviet Union. And if I am moving U.S. forces across Soviet territory, my supply throughput won't affect things. So yes, if somehow if I come in here and it's Soviet home core, I think I would just be liberating it. I don't know how that works since they're in a different faction, so I wouldn't be sure of that. Because again, I've not played this from either the Soviets or the Americans before. I have played it from the British, but the British have never invaded what had been, core territory, Soviet Union. But so generally speaking, so if I decide to send an armored corps to go help along with the fight the Soviets, it's going to be Soviet territory. Otherwise, we're going to simply be, invading the coast and, picking up coastal ports even if we do a classical D-Day, come along here and pick up coastal ports. We don't really, supply throughput of roads really is not going to be the big determining factor like it is getting deep into the Soviet Union. And again, here we're going to have a shipborne, seaborne supply wherever we're taking territory. So I'm going to choose not to do national highways as a strategical thing here. 50 pointed out. Me several times. Yeah, I know. You lived in America twice, and your health care is a similar standard and no way better than ours. However, what if you have no insurance? Yeah, well, if you have no insurance and you're poor, you get government insurance. It's called Medicaid. As opposed to Medicare is for older people, Medicaid is for those who don't have it. Shortening is basically sell now, buy later. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Well, my family has done the opposite. They've bought houses now. In fact, my dad just bought within the last couple of weeks another house in Arizona. Yeah, thinking that it's going to be better than inflation and keeping the money in cash. And what the stock market has been doing recently, it's regaining a lot of what it's lost 3 weeks ago. And yes, I do watch the stock market just as a judge of how people think society's going. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not trying to give anybody advice on what they should do with their money, because I don't know, because we're having inflation. We can have downturns in stocks really easily. China right now, if you look at a shipping map of the coast here that has the tracking signals of the ship, you'll see so many ships just parked here waiting to go into China because China's not letting them in. So the China trade is collapsing right now, and that's been giving people problems. Should give you guys finance session once. Well, it'd probably be helpful for people. So yeah, so the China trade is collapsing right now. That's going to be a problem. That's a problem with a lot of things right now. That's why I understand Starlink. Elon Musk's internet service is having a problem, as they can't get enough chips for their Starlink program, their boxes or whatever that they need to do. That's why people can't get the dishes. It's not that they can't make the satellite dishes and all the other parts. It's the chips that come from China. So we've got a few years of problems here, I think. Okay, so we're going to go with... we're going to continue political spying. Democrats are in power, so we're going to continue doing political spying. And we're going to do economic boost, and we're going to go over to short-term economic boost instead of long-term. Oh, wait, this. And we're going to end this episode here now, but not the live stream. We're going to continue with the live stream, but so no one needs to go anywhere. But just this episode will be over, so thank you so much for watching. Love to hear your comments on any of these topics, because I want to know what people are thinking and about every kind of thing. So please post below. See you next time for more, yes, even more Hearts of Iron.